Modern theory of international trade. We have already seen the classical theory of international trade. We saw the Adam Smith absolute cost advantage theory, and then we saw Ricardo's comparative cost advantage theory. Okay, so already we have seen two theories: Adam Smith's theory of absolute cost advantage and Ricardo's theory of comparative cost advantage. Now let us see the modern theory of international trade. The modern theory of international trade. The modern theory of international trade was developed by Swedish economist. It was developed by Swedish economist Heckscher and his student Olin in 1919. That's why it is called as Heckscher-Olin theorem. HO theorem. It was developed by Swedish economist Heckscher and a student Bertil Olin in 1919. This model was based on the Ricardian theory of international trade. First we had the Adam Smith theory. Then Adam Smith theory was further developed by Ricardo and named as comparative cost advantage theory. This theory, the modern theory, was based on Ricardian theory of international trade. So this theory says that the basis for international trade is the difference in the factor endowments. It is because of the difference in factor endowments. So what do you mean by factor endowments? To produce anything, we need the factors of productions. What are the factors of production? Land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur or organization. So each country has been blessed with certain amount of natural factors. It differs from one country to another. So what do you mean by factor endowment? Factor endowment means the amount of land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur that could be exploited to manufacture within a country. Factor endowment means the amount of factors of production available in the country and which is exploited to create goods within a country. That is only called as factor endowment. So this theory says that the basis for international trade is the difference in the factor endowments. Each country has got different kinds of factor endowments. Because of this difference only, international trade is happening. So this theory is based on the difference in the factor endowments. It is otherwise called as factor endowment theory. So modern theory of international trade given by Heckscher and Olin is also called as factor endowment theory. So it was a factor endowment model was developed by Heckscher and Olin. Countries with a relative factor abundance can specialize and trade. Export embody the abundant factor. So when a country is exporting, it means it has got abundant factor. Imports embody the scarce factor. A country is said to import when the factors are scarce. So there is high degree of factor mobility. So factors are able to move from one place to another very easily. So these are the assumptions. So let us see the theory. The classical theory argued that the basis for foreign trade was comparative cost difference and it considered only labor factor. So classical theory வந்து factor trade எதனால நடந்தது? காஸ்ட்ல டிஃபரன்ஸ் இருந்தது, காஸ்ட் அட்வான்டேஜில் டிஃபரன்ஸ் இருந்தது, அதனால தான் ட்ரேட். ஆனால் இங்கே ட்ரேட் நடக்கிறதுக்கு முக்கிய காரணம் என்னன்னு பார்த்தா ஃபேக்டர் என்டவுமெண்ட்ஸ். ஒவ்வொரு கண்ட்ரியில் என்னென்ன ஃபேக்டர்ஸ் இருக்குது, ஒருவேளை இந்தியாவில் லேபர் எக்ஸ்டென்சிவ் அல்லது லேபர் இன்டென்சிவாக இருந்ததுன்னா, நிறைய லேபரர்ஸ் இருந்தாங்கன்னா, லேபர் இன்டென்சிவ் குட்ஸ் என்னென்ன ப்ரிப்பேர் பண்ணுறோமோ அதெல்லாம் எக்ஸ்போர்ட் பண்ணலாம். இந்தியாவில் கேபிட்டல் இல்லையா, அப்போ கேபிட்டல் இன்டென்சிவ் எந்த கண்ட்ரி இருக்குதோ அவங்ககிட்ட இருந்து கேபிட்டல் நிறைய யூஸ் பண்ணுற குட்ஸை நம்ம இம்போர்ட் பண்ணிக்கணும். So modern theory it is based on the factor endowments, whereas the classical theory was based on comparative cost advantages. So the difference in the endowment of factors of production between countries and the difference in the factor proportions required in proportion attributes international differences in comparative cost. So what are the assumptions? இங்க என்னென்ன assumptions பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, there are two countries, two commodities and two factors. There are two countries, two commodities and two factors. So can you see here? There are two countries, India and America. It will be two commodities like wheat and cloth, and two factors, labor and capital. In the classical theory, we had only one factor. Here we have two factors. Countries differ in factor endowments. So another assumption is there is difference in factor endowments. Countries use same production technology, but the technology that countries use is the same. And countries also have identical demand condition, and there is perfect competition in both product market and factor market in both the countries. So there is perfect competition in both product market and factor markets in both the countries. These are the assumptions of Heckscher and Olin theorem. So look at this picture here, Heckscher and Olin. A capital abundant country will export the capital intensive good, while the labor abundant country will export the labor intensive good. So what do you mean by that? Certain goods need high amount of labor. That is only called as labor abundant. Certain commodities need high amount of capital. Those goods are called as capital intensive. So a country which has got abundance of capital can export the capital intensive goods, while the country which has got abundance of labor can export labor intensive goods. This is the first thing that you have to remember. A capital abundant country will export the capital intensive good, while the labor abundant country will export the labor intensive good. Next one, factor proportions model, which links export and import to factor endowments. There will be difference in the factor proportions. Factor proportions model which links export and import to factor endowments. You know what are factor endowments? The amount of labor, capital, land and entrepreneur available in a country only is called as factor endowment. Factor endowment means the amount of labor, land, labor, capital, organization that could be exploited to manufacture within a country. Exports. A country exports those commodities produced with relatively large quantities of country's relatively abundant factory. What type of goods are exported from a country? Commodities produced with relatively large quantities of country's relatively abundant factor. If a country is abundant in labor, it will be exporting goods which are produced with large amount of labor. So a country exports those commodities produced with relatively large quantities of country's relatively abundant factor. ஒரு கண்ட்ரியில் எந்த ஃபேக்டர் அபண்டண்ட்டாக இருக்குதோ, எந்த ஃபேக்டர் நிறையா இருக்கோ, அந்த ஃபேக்டரை வச்சு உற்பத்தி செய்த பொருட்களை தான் என்ன பண்ணுவாங்க? எக்ஸ்போர்ட் பண்ணுவாங்க. According to Heckscher and Olin, a capital abundant country will export the capital intensive good, while the labor abundant country will export the labor intensive goods. இதுதான் Heckscher and Olin உடைய HO theorem. இதுதான் இந்த theorem. A capital abundant country will export the capital intensive good, while the labor abundant country will export the labor intensive good. A factor is regarded abundant or scarce in relation to the quantum of other factors. எப்படி ஒரு ஃபேக்டர் நிறையா இருக்கு, குறைவா இருக்குன்னு சொல்றோம்? 4 ஃபேக்டர் இப்போ சொன்னேன். லேண்ட், லேபர், கேபிட்டல், ஆர்கனைசேஷன். லேண்டையும் லேபரும் ஒப்பிட்டு பார்க்கும்போது லேபர் நிறைய இருந்தால் அது லேபர் அபண்டன்ட்னு சொல்லுவோம். லேண்ட் நிறைய இருந்தால் தட் இஸ் லேண்ட் அபண்டன்ட். கேபிட்டல் அபண்டன்ட்டாக இருந்தால் இட் இஸ் கால்ட் அஸ் கேபிட்டல் அபண்டன்ட். A country can be regarded as richly endowed with capital only if the ratio of capital to other factors is higher than other countries. So here is an illustration. Supply of labor and supply of capital. India and America. India has the supply of labor at 50 and America has 24. In supply of capital, India has 40 and America has 30. So looking at this tabular column, you might think India is abundant in labor and India is also abundant in capital while comparing with America. But it is not like that. Let us see the ratio. There are 50 people and the amount of capital is 40. So 40 divided by 50 is 0.8. So the capital labor ratio is 0.8 in India, whereas the capital labor ratio in America is 30 divided by 24 is equal to 1.25. That means the capital in America is more than the capital in India when the capital labor ratio is taken. So in the above example, even though India has more capital in absolute terms, by looking at the tabular column, you can say that India has got more capital. America is more richly endowed with capital because the ratio in India is 0.8, which is less than that in America where it is 1.25. Very able to understand? So here you see the capital abundant country can export capital intensive goods. Capital abundant country exports capital intensive goods. The labor abundant country will export labor intensive goods. This is the theory given by Heckscher and Olin, which is called as the modern theory of international trade. So let us end with a comparison of classical theory and modern theory. Classical theory and model. Classical theory, we saw two theories: Adam Smith absolute cost advantage theory and Ricardo's comparative cost advantage theory. Those two theories are called as classical theory of international trade. Under modern theory of international trade, we saw Heckscher and Olin theorem. Okay. So what is the difference between these two? The classical theory explains the phenomenon of international trade on the basis of labor theory of value. So in the classical theory, they used only labor. But whereas here it is called as the general theory of value. General means it can be used for all the factors: land, labor, capital, and organization. The modern theory explains the phenomenon of international trade on the basis of general. It is called as the general theory of value. It presents only one factor, that is labor. It presents only one factor model. They use only labor. Here it is multi-factor, labor and capital. So it presents a one factor model. It presents a multi-factor model. The last one, it attributes the differences in the comparative cost to the differences in the productive efficiency of workers in two countries. So here they talk about the workers, the efficiency workers, and the comparative cost difference between two countries. So it attributes to the differences in the comparative cost to differences in the comparative cost to the differences in the productive efficiency of workers in the two countries. Here, it attributes the difference in comparative cost to the differences in the factor endowments. Here it is comparative cost to workers உடைய efficiency பொறுத்திருக்கு. இங்க comparative cost to factor endowments. Factor endowmentsனா எல்லா factors of productionும் சேர்ந்து அந்த நாட்டில் உற்பத்தி செய்யக்கூடிய பண்டங்களை குறிக்குது. factor endowments. எவ்வளோ எக்ஸ்ப்ளாய்ட் பண்ணுறாங்க, எவ்வளோ யூஸ் பண்ணுறாங்க, எதை, land, labor, capital, organization. So the last point, it attributes the difference in the comparative cost to differences in the productive efficiency of workers in the country. It attributes the differences in comparative cost to the differences in the factor endowments in the two countries. So here we saw the comparison of classical theory and modern theory. So gains from international trade. What are the gains? International trade nala enna labam? There is efficient production, there is equalization of price between countries, there is equitable distribution of scarce materials, and there is general advantage of international trade. So these are the gains from international trade. இப்போ பன்னாட்டு வாணிகம் செய்யறதுனால என்னென்ன நன்மைகள்? What are the gains from international trade? First, we saw efficient production. So we can use better utilization of resources, concentration in the production of goods in which it has got comparative advantage. A country can produce goods in which they have comparative advantage. It saves time. There is perfection of skill. You are able to specialize. There is improvement in the technique. There is increased production. So these are all the gains from international trade. So international gains from international trade can be categorized into 4. Efficient production. Next, equalization of prices between the country. International trade may help to equalize prices in all trading countries. எல்லா கண்ட்ரிலையும் கிட்டத்தட்ட இன்டர்நேஷ்னலாக ட்ரேட் பண்ணுற எல்லா பொருட்களுக்கும் விலை எப்படி தான் இருக்கும்? ஆல்மோஸ்ட் த சேமாக தான் இருக்கும். Prices of goods are equalized between the countries. However, in reality, it does not happen. But to a certain extent, the prices of goods in every country can be equalized. The difference is only with regard to the cost of transportation. Prices வந்து எல்லா கண்ட்ரிலையுமே இப்போ பெட்ரோலியம் ப்ரைஸ்ன்னு பார்த்தா ஆல்மோஸ்ட் த சேம் தான் இருக்கணும். பட் இன் ரியாலிட்டி இட் இஸ் நாட் லைக் தட், பிகாஸ் இட் மே பி டியூ டு த டிரான்ஸ்போர்ட்டேஷன் காஸ்ட்டையும் அதில் சேர்த்து அதனால கொஞ்சம் ஏற்றத்தாழ்வுகள் இருக்கலாம். Next is equitable distribution of scarce material. International trade may help the trading countries to have equitable distribution. It will help in equitable distribution of scarce material. Lastly, it has got some general advantages. What are the general advantages of international trade? First, we saw efficient production. Next, we saw equalization of prices between countries. Third one, equitable distribution of scarce material. Last one, what are the general advantages of international trade? There is an availability of variety of goods for consumption. இப்போ நம்ம இந்தியாவில் எடுத்துக்கோங்க, ஒரு ட்ரிங்க்னு எடுத்துக்கிட்டா, in those days we had காளிமார்க், கோலி சோடா, like that only we had. Nowadays we get Pepsi, Sprite, then we get Tropicana. இதெல்லாம் என்னது? Because of international trade only we are able to get foreign goods also. Different. இப்போ லேஸ் சிப்ஸ் வந்துடுச்சு. முன்னாடிலாம் நம்மளுடைய பொட்டேட்டோ சிப்ஸ் மட்டும் தான் இருக்கும். We are getting variety. Soaps எடுத்துக்கிட்டா we are getting variety. Toothpaste there is variety. Then generation of more employment opportunity. நிறைய பேருக்கு வேலை வாய்ப்பு கிடைக்குது இன்டர்நேஷ்னல் ட்ரேட்னால. பிகாஸ் we are producing goods for our country as well as excess goods for others. So there is generation of more employment opportunities. Then industrialization of backward nations. Industrialization of backward nations. Backward nations என்ன ஆகுது? இண்டஸ்ட்ரியலைஸ் ஆகுறாங்க. புது புது நிறுவனங்கள், புது புது ஃபேக்டரி ஸ்டார்ட் ஆகுது. Improvement in relationship among countries. There is improvement. Relationships become stronger when you start doing export and import. There is good relationship. Then there is division of labor. You know what is division of labor? We have already studied it in lower classes. Division of labor. When the production becomes more and more, there is division of labor. In 11th standard we have studied. Then there is expansion in transport facilities. Transport facilities லயும் என்ன இருக்குது? Expansion இருக்கு. So these are the gains from international trade. Hope you understood it, girls. And I think it was interesting also, because we studied a lot of theorems today, theories of international trade. First we saw Adam Smith's theory of absolute cost advantage. Then we saw Ricardo's theory of comparative cost advantage, modern theory of international trade. Then we saw the comparison of classical theory and modern theory. Then we saw the gains from international trade. I think we will stop with this. I will post the homework later on. Okay. Thank you, girls.